So we're only going to be using the front of the room. So if you are coming in wanting to sit at the back, I just want to invite you to move to the front. It'll make it easier for us to interact with each other and to feel like we're all in the same place. Thank you. Okay, so my name is Christo Venter. I'm the moderator for this day, especially for the first half of the day. And let me just make double sure that people in the back, the last row of the first half can hear me. Is that fine? Yeah, thank you. If you're behind the first half, then you're not supposed to hear me. So I'm a professor in civil engineering at the University of Pretoria, and I am really happy to have this opportunity to help moderate the discussions today. The topic for this breakaway session is public transport, and I think the idea is to cover all modes of public transport, land-based public transport at least. So we'll be, through the course of the day, talking about minibus taxis and about buses. Also, to some extent, about rail. But unfortunately, the way that the conference has been set up, there's a bit of a mismatch between the different streams. So even though passenger rail might be very much part of your interests in this breakaway session, rail is also being discussed next door in a parallel session. So if you do keep both ears open, you can listen to two things at the same time, then maybe that'll be good for our industry. So yeah, the topic of the conference is all things transport, but I kind of want to turn it around a bit and say, all things are transport, because all the various topics and modes that we talk about here are all related to each other. So I hope that's one of the things that will come through in our discussions today, the fact that we move forward the fastest and the most effectively if we can make those connections. And there are also some topics which we may want to talk about that are not necessarily covered by the speakers and by the topics that you see if you have a program. Things like the non-motorized transport walking environment, which is critical. So that's walking and to some extent cycling, a critical part of making public transport work for the first and last mile. And then, of course, those intermodal connections between different modes of public transport. We hope to pick up on a bunch of cross-cutting kind of issues, things like funding and legislation and regulation. And we have, I think, a set of really knowledgeable and experienced people that I'm going to call to the front to talk about these various issues. So what we want to get out of this day, according to the instructions that we have, and I think maybe the things that we feel in our hearts, is we want to end up with having some pointers that we can present to the minister to say these are the key things that we think you guys, in Struben Street should be, I think that's where the DOT offices are, should be thinking about, should be applying your minds to, and doing it with us, so with everybody else who's not in central government. So to get to some key pointers and key recommendations, which I hope we will recap right at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we can surface and talk about issues and problems that are really high priority, the things that people in the room feel we should really be talking about more. So that's the first objective, then to highlight things that problems and issues. And secondly is then also to hear and put our heads together about some potential solutions and potential approaches to dealing with these issues. Again, taking these cross-cutting integration kind of thinking into account. So the way that the morning is going to be run up to lunchtime, we have 2 sessions with a tea break in the middle. And in each session we have 3 or 4 or 5 maybe speakers, so people who will introduce some thinking from their side. And I'm going to try to be strict on timekeeping, so everybody will have 10 to 12 minutes to say their thing. We have one speaker, we have 4 speakers in the first session, so there's enough time for us to stretch the time to 12 minutes or so. I will cut you off at 12 minutes, put off your microphone, and then we will have, after each speaker, a few minutes to just ask and address questions of clarification. So if there's anything that was said that you don't quite understand what the definition was or what the speaker meant, you're welcome to ask it then. But not to engage into any in-depth discussions and raise new issues at that point. We'd rather get through the 4 presentations first, and then there's a nice 40 to 50 minutes after that on the program to make the linkages and have discussion from the floor and engage with the speakers and have some to and fro on that. We kick off the morning with a bit of a provocation, which Dr. Mateta Mokonyama will provide for us. He is apparently good with things that are provocative, he assures me. He is currently I forget what you call these things nowadays, competence area leader or something. You may just correct me, Mateta, at the CSIR, looking at transport operations, and he's been at CSIR for quite a number of years. I know him from my days at the CSIR several decades ago, so that gives you an idea. He's also been involved in many other aspects of policy and planning in cities and also private industry. So Mateta, you're welcome to come up and give us some starting points, just some ideas to help set the scene for the discussion today.
That's the introduction to the very famous song by Brahiu Masekela, Stimela. He wrote this song and published it in 1974 when he was in exile in New York. He went there when he was 21 years old, but he wrote this song in 1974 when he was 35. The song Stimela tells a story about the painful memory of what trains used to do in the community. He stayed in Witbank, grew up there, born and bred there, and the place, is about mining in the main, coal mining. And these trains would bring workers, conscripted workers, forced labor from all over Southern Africa to come and work in the mines. So in that song, he curses and he reminds us about, the pain that, this, trains, the ecosystem cost. And that is the story of the public transport system in South Africa, that of pain. We've been on a journey of relieving this pain, of healing. Our constitution talks about healing. We need to heal. So public transport in the main, I believe, the policies that we have been, adopting have been about healing. We've been trying to heal ourselves. Early on, when we crafted the white paper in 1986 and other policy documents, it was about how we heal the nation using mobility as a vehicle. The size of that pain at the moment is about 5% of GDP. So the backlog that we have to address the problems in public transport, we estimate is about 5%, equivalent to about 5% of GDP. So society is currently paying 5% more than it should of GDP on mobility. And we need to be decisive in addressing this. We've been successful in some ways. There's been successes. We have seen, things like, taxi recap, which improved the quality of the vehicles to a large extent. We have seen institutions being, created to manage public transport. We have seen investment in, the likes of, Rea Vaya, My City in Cape Town and so forth. We have seen a lot of improvement, but over time also we have seen self-sabotage. As we try to progress, we sabotage ourselves. And when you unpack what self-sabotage does, what causes self-sabotage? Right? You're told by some of the experts that self-esteem is one of those. Fear would be another cause for self-sabotage. It's things like just being comfortable, just being too comfortable. So as we try to progress, we self-sabotage. Right? So one of the things that I want to offer as part of the reasons why we self-sabotage is what the Constitution calls justice. As we transform, as we introduce new concepts, new technology, often what is being raised is just transition. Is it just? Because as we pump investment into these new ways of doing things, there are people who come into the fold and they say, are we transforming in a just way? You have seen, for example, associations, taxi associations saying, you are moving in this direction, but you're forgetting the promises that you made in 1995, right? So a lot is about how we transition justly. Just transition is one of the things that would need to probably think about how do we do it going forward. And one of the things that we may want to talk about is bringing in the voice of the end user. A lot has been about the voice of the operators, the voice of the bus sector, industry as we call it sometimes. But the voice of the end user has been very muted. You go to NEDLAC and you look at how policy is formulated and you listen to what is being done, what the voice of the end user looks like is very muted. So one of the suggestions being put on the table is, could we have a formal agreement with civil society about what it means to provide a proper service, a service charter for public transport, a just service, public transport service for public transport? Is it something that you want to have as part of the outcomes of these discussions? So overall, the technical bits, the technical parts may seem easy. In fact, they are easy. The big thing is probably around how we heal. How we heal as a nation. How, are there methods? How should we approach this healing, process so that we don't self-sabotage? You look at a survey that we carried out in metropolitan municipalities not so long ago about their capacity to implement the National Land Transport Act. A lot of them say we cannot do the basics, Section 11 of the Act. We cannot do those things, right? We cannot produce a basic transport plan. We have no capacity, we have no resources, and so forth. And where resources are provided, they are sometimes, misused. So this self-sabotage, concept of self-sabotage, is something that you may need to think about a bit more to say, how do we overcome self-sabotage, going forward. So that's my submission, overall, to say, if we want to, move forward, we need to heal, ask ourselves, how do we heal? But then very importantly, last point I want to make is about the issue of sovereignty. Often we look at, what is being done elsewhere in the world, what China is doing, what whoever, Singapore is doing. But our constitution talks about sovereignty. It says we need to be a sovereign nation and take our rightful place in the League of Nations, essentially. So the methods, technologies that we adopt should be about sovereignty. Our drive should be about, sovereignty. So often we take up, methods, right? But we forget that what informed those approaches elsewhere, it was about technological sovereignty, data sovereignty, and other things. So as we move, we need to ask ourselves, are we adopting methods, approaches, innovative approaches that help us to become, sovereign, going forward? So that's my submission. Healing, very important, and part of it is to overcome, self-sabotage. Sovereignty is a big part of what we need to, move towards, adopt technologies, approaches that help us to become sovereign. Innovation, how we fund, how we resource innovation needs to help us to become sovereign. It doesn't make sense to say we put out everything out on tender, right? We shoot ourselves in the foot. We're saying, for us to do something in public transport, innovative, it needs to be out on tender. And what often happens is that, the lowest price, would get that tender. And we often compromise on innovation. Things like those, some things that we need to just think about. So, in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, healing. How do we heal? What are the methods, going forward? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mateta. I think that already raises some important issues, and I hope we'll be able to get into the obvious questions of, okay, so how do we move forward and think about these things as we do our work would come up later in the day. I saw that the automatic translation here said that we should be putting everything out to Tinder, which I don't think you should take literally. I don't think that's what Mateta meant here. Right, I want to introduce the next speaker, who is somebody who's maybe also familiar to quite a few of you. So Levern Dimitrov is currently with UITP, which is the International Association of Public Transport. They promote and advocate for public transport and also help to improve it all over the world, quite active in Africa. And Levern was formerly with the Development Bank of Southern Africa, so she's been involved in the developing projects specifically in transport across 68 countries in Africa. So she has a lot of knowledge and experience within the continent. So I hope what she speaks here is also not just relevant to our country, but also to the region. She, just by way of her interest and her passion, if you want to use that word, She says she advocates for integrated network transport services, promoting synchronized scheduling and ticketing systems, and then I'm sure a bunch of other things as well. She has a master's in transport economics. Laverne, I want to invite you to come and chat to us. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Good. It's nice to see everyone in the public transport session, and thank you, Prof, for the introduction. My job will be very difficult with 68 countries. I can't cope with 42 at the moment, so thank you for that introduction, just a correction there. This presentation, I think I would like to look at all modes of transport, not just rail. Yesterday we heard quite a lot about rail, and I hope for this session we'll be putting things right. We are looking at integrated transport, buses, minibus taxis, shared vehicles, etc. I won't cover all of these areas in my international presentation that will focus on global public transport trends, and of course the questions later on of how it can be made applicable to Southern Africa. Okay, so yesterday we heard quite a lot about, or overheard quite a lot about digitalization and how we should actually improve our systems to incorporate new technologies. So this is a photograph animation of what things look like in 24, and by the looks of how we talk about public transportation, we are thinking maybe it sounds like it's a mingle and mix of robotics and people. And this is what I kind of heard yesterday through the grapevine. We're looking at robotics. We only talk about robotics. So I made a lot of notes yesterday about this. My question is, if this is a trend, if this is an ongoing trend, how are we going to create public transport that is human-centered, that features for human? Because otherwise we may lose all our users if we over-focus on that. So here I just want to show you a brief video that was taken by one of my colleagues in Asia Pacific of how humans are interacting with robotics. Just very brief. It's a bit of a long video, but I hope you can hear the sound. I can't hear the sound on this. Just shows us these are real robots. They really move like this. I myself even have a video. And in the background you see the children taking part in the gymnastics. So yes, there will be a little bit of digitalization taking place, but the question is how far, how long do we go? Okay, so today I'm going to look at global public transport trends and developments. What I'm going to do, I'm going to look at 10 of them. Some of them I will go through very quickly. And for you to see what is happening around the world, what have we captured that's happening around the world. And I must say this slide deck was put together by my colleagues. They are based in 14 different offices. And they took a mission to check what's happening in the world. So I'm going to go to the first one. It's a pity I can't hear the sound, but this is looking at big investment in urban rail, currently in BRT projects in many countries. Then that previous slide was in, Sydney, Australia. I should have said that. It was taken in Sydney, Australia. And then if we go to check and see what's happening around the world, we'll see, I'm just going to focus on a few big ones. Let's say, for example, in India, there's about a network of 1,700 kilometers currently being developed in 24 Indian cities. In Canada, also a big expansion of the railway network in Vancouver, Toronto, and some are implementing BRTs. Same with China and Philippines. We're looking there at extra 33 kilometers of the Metro Manila subway. 17 stations is currently being developed. Africa, we've also seen the rest of Africa, a very high capacity corridors looking at BRT and other mass transit systems. Then, of course, current big trend today is the electrification that many cities are really thinking about. I updated this slide deck yesterday, but I didn't put in the numbers. Currently, from the cities that I've been to, roughly 3 cities, they have already purchased 1,000 electric buses. We also see New Zealand, they have gone and done your e-jeepney and e-tricycle pilots demonstrations. They're looking now currently at what is the social and operational benefits of that. Then also in places like Mexico, the large cities in there, they are scaling up the e-bus fleet. And the medium cities, they are looking at programs to support. They are looking at programs as supported by development finance institutions. Okay, then artificial intelligence. We were talking about this, is accelerating, and the use of these cases are currently growing. So let's see where they are being expanded. We are seeing that in Dubai, the Road Transport Authority, they've unveiled an ambitious AI strategy for 2030. Currently, they are training people at the regional training center on these initiatives. We would have seen some more training if we had the summit in Dubai, but unfortunately that was cancelled. So they alone have 81 projects that they are doing on AI. In the US, they're using AI for maintenance, for predictive scheduling, and to improve passenger information. Then, of course, is unified ticketing, which has been accelerating because due to the fact of our smartphones. And this is really a worldwide trend. Here, I would like to talk about in China. Maybe some of you have seen it. They use the WeChat and Alipay for mostly everything. You can even use it to do your washing. So it's very, very popular applications. Now, some of the UITP responses to this is looking at, this was put together by UITP members, of which there's about 2,000 companies, a part of the UITP fold, and some of them actually put together this one on open loop payment systems. And one of the members that put together this was Google Pay and Uber put together the open loop payment systems in public transportation. Yeah, and then also accessibility is important to promote public transport. It's very important, and we've seen, especially in Mexico, that they are planning, their planning places a very, very big emphasis on universal access. They do the training, they do most things that's connected to that. In the UK, the same thing, retrofitting the elevators in the station, and they also publish step-free maps with real-time lift status. Increasing challenge is really funding and financing for both your CapEx and OpEx, and I think we've heard it yesterday as well. Those trains were in Delhi, taken in Delhi. So around the world, we've seen Some cities are looking at different models of funding, some of them relating to TOD. In South Africa, we recently, this year, had financing for some of the private minibus taxi operators where they bought a fleet of vehicles to serve on a specific route here in Pretoria, and that was funded by DFI at very acceptable rates, not your exorbitant rates of. The highest I've seen was 33%. So a very, very reasonable, but it took quite a big study to get to that level, and that study was supported by the World Bank and the development DBSA. Okay, and then skills gap is quite a critical challenge around the world. We've seen that in most countries and on the different continents, that it's a critical skills gap, and especially for the employment of women and gender. A very interesting example in Latin America, they were struggling to get, some of our Latin American members were struggling to employ women. And what they did was they first put out an advert, and a lot of women didn't apply for these jobs. But when they had the member meeting, looking at the bus committee meeting, there was a proposal made that they must only advertise and say only this position is only for women. And then they got 10,000 applications. So that was very good. I'm going to skip that one as well, and come to why we should, what does infrastructure investment mean in public transport? So you'll see right at the top, that is how Seoul, Korea looked in 2001. 2005, it's been beautified. These days, this is what it looks like, that beautification project. It's peaceful, people go out there at night and have fun. Then there, of course, the last one that I wanted to look at is large events. It's an opportunity to develop public transport. So I heard a lot about getting people on the bus or train, but we have never thought maybe to an extent how one can use this opportunity to develop. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Laverne. I think that's a useful, quick overview of some of the things that are happening internationally. We'll hear more about international trends in some of the upcoming presentations. Are there any questions that people want to raise just around clarification about this topic, or maybe raise some points that you think we should talk about later on? There's a hand over there, and then over here in the front. Sorry, I can't see individual faces from up here. Do we have a microphone, please?
One, two. Okay. Two.
Sorry,
Yeah.
can we just, this hand over here was first, and then we can come back to you, sir. Thank you.
Good morning, Program Director, the esteemed delegates in the meeting, in the session. My name is Butise Makambi from the Eastern Cape Department of Transport. Program Director, I want to comment on the two presentations made so far. I must appreciate the presentation made by Dr. Mateta, but how I wish we are transport operation and we are demarcated as public transport, which include all modes. On top of that, we are the regulator, which look at